Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll go. We have, just a couple of seconds left. We'll go ahead and kind of get started here. And I want to introduce Nicolle Patterson and share with you how I came to know Nicolle. And I actually I knew of her from the former program coordinator for the Scholars Academy. And while I do teach the non-majors biology and other NS courses, I did not know her that way. I knew her from the Scholars Academy. And I had heard upon my entry in 2009, I'd heard a lot about Nicolle. Nicolle, were you a senior peer mentor?
Yes, I was.
Yes, and that's Professor Nakamura really shared with me, and so we met in passing, and then she became an adjunct for the UHD faculty in the natural sciences, and so she's been instrumental in not only helping the students but helping SA. This is one example. This is a grant-funded Women in Science program. And I love the title. I'm not going to steal it. I'll let her give it. I love the title of her presentation, because I think what we don't want to, what university life is about is expanding and broadening our understanding of what careers could be for us, even though we come in with a very dedicated perspective, right? Informed or uninformed, in whatever level that we come in. So we are very happy to have her, and I think some of you have her as a professor. So without further ado, and you can, do this, we can see you. We want to welcome Nicolle Patterson. Nicolle, if you'll share your screen.
I will. So, give me a sec. Here we go.
Great.
Oops. You guys can see this?
Yes.
Bring my Zoom meeting over. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you, Dr. Parker, for the introduction. So I'm Nicolle Patterson again. Some of you here are my students, I can see. So some of you are in my class. Some of you I may have had before. I'm very excited to be here today to talk to you about a different career path that you can take with a science degree. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about my journey. I'm going to spend some time actually talking about my journey from being a student at UHD to my current position, which is a science administrator in the graduate school at UT. I'm going to share with you what I've learned along the way and give you some tips about things that you can do to help you be successful. And I'll also present different options or different careers that you can engage in with your degree, careers that you may not have thought about before. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat, and Dr. Parker or someone will let me know. You can stop me at any time. Okay. So I was a student of UHD from 2005 to 2009. I went to a family night, UHD family night last week, and there were other alumni there who were speaking about why they chose to come to UH downtown. A lot of them had done a lot of research, and they liked the programs that they offered. They liked the times that the classes were being offered. They also liked the price of the university. My reason for choosing UH downtown is a little different. I moved to Houston in 2004, and when I decided to go to university, I just literally Googled universities in Houston, and all of the university UHs came up, but I knew downtown. That was pretty much the only area that I knew in Houston at the time, so I was like, bingo, that's where I'm going. And so I entered in the summer of 2005 with the aim of pursuing a bachelor's degree in chemistry. That was always my goal. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know that I wanted a degree in chemistry. It turns out that actually coming to UH downtown was one of the best decisions that I've made. UH, as you know, has a lot of student diversity. I was able to be introduced to a lot of different cultures while I was here. I've made friends from many, many, many different areas of the world who have taught me about their ways of living, which I greatly appreciate. There are a lot of academic opportunities here, Scholars Academy, of course, being one of the biggest assets at UH downtown. And one of the other big assets that I find here is that we have very small classes. And so that allows for individualized attention from the faculty, meaning that the faculty generally really know you as a student, right? You take a class here that may have at times 20 students compared to a larger university where that same class might have 100. Speaking as faculty here, when I have a small class, I know my students. When I teach in the lab and we meet face-to-face, I engage and interact with all of my students. So I know what their hopes and dreams are, and I try my best to help them along the way. And so because of the small class size, this is what actually led me to a career in research. So in the summer of 2006, I took General Chemistry 2 with Dr. Maria Benavides. She's currently Associate Professor for the Chemistry program. She's officially the Associate Professor, and she's also the Chemistry Program Coordinator and the Assistant Chair of the Chemistry Department, the Natural Science Department, So during the summer of 2006, I took a lab with her, and so she got to know me really well, and she approached me and she said, hey, I have a research project. Do you want to work on it? And I had no idea what research was. Like, I don't even think I've actually really heard about research up to that point, but I said, sure. And so that turned out to be one of the best decisions that I made because I actually stayed in laboratory research all the way up until 2019, right, last year. And so I worked with Dr. Benavides on a project where we wanted to look at materials for solar cells. So we had these phosphonium-based ionic liquids that were created by one of her colleagues in Mexico. And so he wanted to know what's the highest temperature these ionic liquids can withstand, because they can be used in solar cells. They do have the property to conduct electricity, but of course, if you put something, if you make something that's material for solar cells, you don't want it to degrade at 80 degrees, right? And so we spend a lot of time essentially determining the viability of these ionic liquids for their potential use in solar cells. And so that was a fantastic opportunity for me. I worked on that project, I believe, for about a year. But that was my first exposure to research, and I ended up falling in love with it. And so this actually brings me to one of my 5 tips that I'm going to share with you today. Tip number 1 is engage with the UHD faculty, right? Actively engage with your professors. The professors here, they have a wealth of knowledge, right? They have been to graduate school. They have worked in labs. They know people who have been to medical school. They have contacts in all of these places. They can help you, and they want to help you, right? They don't just want to teach you. They want to help you grow. So talk to your professors. So here are some ways on how to do this. Some of you may know, some of you may not. First of all, make yourself known in class. If you stand out as a student, your professors will know you. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how that helped me at UHD. So number 2, go to your professor's office hours, right? Go talk to them, right? You can even send them an email and say, hi, can I come to your office hours? I'd like to talk to you about XYZ. Establish a professional relationship with them. Part of the reason that I was able to come back to UH downtown to teach is that I had a professional relationship years after I left UHD with some of the faculty. And so when an adjunct position opened to teach a biochemistry lab, I was considered because they knew me and they knew that this was something that I wanted to do. Okay? Ask your professor to keep an eye out for you. They may know of job opportunities that are available. If you ask them, if you tell them, or any other opportunities, if you tell them, hey, I'm interested in doing this, if something comes across their desk, they'll let you know, right? And also keep in touch. Don't just end your relationship when you walk out the door, when you graduate or you walk across the stage. Actively keep in touch with UHD faculty, those that you've established a relationship with. I guarantee they will help you in the future. So I just want to take a little time to ask you personally, how do you engage with your professors? Anyone want to volunteer?
I just answer questions in class whenever they ask and no one else talks.
That's probably, thanks, you're doing that right now, so thank you.
Yeah, it's sometimes like, it's kind of like when a teacher asks a question and it's just like a big long pause.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'd rather just answer the question and get it wrong than have to wait for 2 or 3 minutes for this awkward silence.
Yes.
I would have to agree with you on attending office hours. I feel like that's a good way to engage with your professors and get to know them a little bit.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So from 2006 to 2009, I was a member of the Scholars Academy that you all know and love. I was a mentor for one of the chemistry groups from 2007 to 2008, and then I was a senior peer mentor in my senior year at UH Downtown. One of the great things about talking to faculty and engaging with faculty is, like I said before, they present you with a lot of different opportunities. There was a seminar back sometime in 2007, early 2007, that I decided to attend. It was a seminar at UHD, and at that seminar, they spoke about this grant called the MARC, USTAR, and MARC stands for Minority Access to Research Careers. Now, during this seminar, they actually asked students, they called on 2 students to give a talk about what research means to them. And even though they did not really know me, Dr. Morano was the person calling students. She did not know me. I didn't take a class with her, but she knew of me because the faculty spoke of me. She called me up to talk about what research meant to me. And so I gave a talk about that, and then when I was done, I contacted Dr. Estrella and said I would like to apply for this program because she knew of my research skills by word of mouth and reputation. She agreed that I would be a good candidate. And so the MARC USTAR program was funded by the NIH, right? And so the goal of it was to increase the number of scientists from underrepresented communities in biomedical research programs. And so the 5 of us were the first year of the MARC grant. And so this helped shape my path because, like I said, when I came to UH Downtown, I knew I wanted to get a degree in chemistry, but I didn't know what I wanted to do after. I had some experience with research, but I still didn't know what type of research I wanted to do. So this presented a path for me to actually engage in biomedical research. And so for the MARC USTAR program, I did 2 summer rotations. My first rotation was at the UT Health Science Center Houston, where I worked with Dr. Sudha Veeraraghavan. She's currently a scientific review officer at the NIH's Center for Scientific Review. And so that was my first exposure to research at a Tier 1 institution, and it was amazing. My second summer, I actually went to Case Western Reserve University, where I worked with Dr. Mark Chance, who's now director of the Proteomics Center and also vice dean for research. And I was able to make a lot of connections while I was up there. And this led me to the SMDEP, the Summer Medical Dental Education Program that Case Western offers. They actually asked me to come back in 2009 to help them run that program. So while I was there in 2008 at Case Western, I made so much connections that they invited me to come back for another summer to help them with their program, which was fantastic because it was a summer before graduate school, and so that was my way of earning money for grad school. And so this brings me to tip number 2, make your own connections, right? Use LinkedIn for professional networking. Yesterday I had a meeting with a former student that I'm helping tried to get into graduate school, and he told me he's also looking for jobs, and he says that he found a job on LinkedIn and they've called him for an interview. So we did a mock interview together. But LinkedIn is a fantastic network for getting to know people. Connect with your company of choice on social media. Companies engage on social media, and they also post job openings, opportunities they may have, seminars that they give. So interact with, if you know a particular company you want to work for, interact with them on social media, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn is technically considered social media now, Twitter, or whatever. Attend seminars and engage with the speakers. Speakers love to talk to people who attend their seminars, right? You're sitting here listening to me talk about myself for an hour. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. So attend seminars where you'll learn information, but also engage with the speakers. And in addition to that, attend internal and external conferences. In the past, pre-COVID, I know that UHD does the graduate, the Scholars Academy does the graduate students, GSIF, I forget what it stands for, but it's a great way to go and actually meet representatives from different graduate schools, from different industry, different jobs that might be available to you. That's a great way to make connections. External conferences are amazing because it's not just localized to Houston. If you have plans of going to schools in other states, more than likely if you go to an external conference, they will be there. For Scholars Academy members, I'm not sure how it works, but I know that in the past there was some funding. But most of these external conferences also offer travel grants that you can apply for. That will assist you with the housing or the registration fee or the flight or some combination of that. Explore external research opportunities, right? My first semester, I did, as a MARC student, I did research here in Houston, but I knew that my second semester I wanted to branch out. And so there were opportunities for me to go to California or to go to Ohio. And I picked Ohio because of the reputation of the university, but most universities offer summer undergraduate programs where they actually give you a really great stipend and they pay your housing. So you want to start looking for these opportunities early, get your application together. I promise you it will be worth it. And also join professional groups and the alumni groups once you've graduated. It's also a really great way to keep in contact with people and also to keep abreast of what's happening in around Houston. So the Scholars Academy was a great experience for me. It enriched my love of science. I was able to mentor both high school students and undergrads, so that also helped shape my path, because right now I do a lot of mentoring, right? And I got to present research at some really interesting conferences and places. One year we got to go to Disney to present our research, and so it was fantastic. I also got to go to places like Austin, Kansas City, Missouri, and other places like that. So when I got to my last year, I had to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to graduate school? Do I want to go get a job, right? And so tip number 3 for you guys is plan ahead, right? Understand the requirements for graduate or professional school and work towards them. Establish contact with the admissions department at these different schools. UT, for example, my boss, she has an open calendar for any external person that wants to come to graduate school. You can set up a 30-minute or 1-hour session with her where she will talk to you about anything. Admissions departments love when students contact them because they want to increase the number of people applying to their schools. So they love to talk to you, and they actually really help a lot. They'll even help you with some aspects of your application that you may be struggling with, right? Again, attend internal and external seminars so that you get some information about what's going on with these schools. Have a timeline for your application submission, right? Most schools do roll-in applications, so if the application is due in December 31st, you do not want to be submitting your application at December 30th. You just will not make the cut. So set a timeline for what you need to do and then apply early, right? Speak to the faculty at the university that you plan on attending, especially if you want to do research. You may look someone up and say, hi, I'm interested in joining this program, and I really like your lab and your research. Can I talk to you about it, right? And that is also that's a good way to get your foot in the door, because if that faculty connects with you and he or she is taking a graduate student, they will push for you to be admitted to that university. Okay, so for me, I had to plan ahead for graduate school, and I know that a successful graduate student would have one or all of these, a combination of good GPA, at the time, good GRE scores, they don't really take those anymore, strong letters of recommendation, and research experience. But what I want to point out to you for graduate school and even medical school, a lot of times, if you're not so great in one area, but you're good in the others, they will take a look at your entire application. You'll still be considered. So if your GPA is sort of iffy, but you have amazing research experience and your letters are very, very strong, you will more than likely still make it. But work towards these goals. Okay, so 2009 to 2012, I went to graduate school at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio, which I believe is now called UT Health San Antonio. So my first semester I did a rotation with Betty Sue Masters. She's currently an adjunct professor of biochemistry at Duke, but she was a pioneer in her field. And when she retired, the Journal of Biological Chemistry actually asked her to write a letter about her journey, how she got to where she was. The second person I did a rotation with was Greg Fields. So Greg had interviewed me when I was interviewing for graduate school at San Antonio, and we got along really well. He was a chemist in a biomedical field, and I was a chemist in a biomedical field, and we meshed really well. He felt that he would be able to give me really good guidance, and I would be an asset to his lab because I understood the chemistry side of what he was doing. So I did my rotation with Greg, and then when the rotation was done, I went to talk to him, and I said, Greg, I really enjoyed working with you. Can I join your lab? And he said, I am leaving the university. And so my plan just went, right? And so tip number 4, have a backup plan, okay? If plan A doesn't work, don't worry, the alphabet has 26 more letters. And getting from point A to point B does not look the same for everyone, but you should have a backup plan. Thankfully, I did not have a backup plan at the time, but Greg did. So Greg said to me, there's someone else who works on something that's similar to me. You should go talk to her. So second part of tip 4, so tip 4B is also make your own path, right? Not everyone's journey will be the same. And don't use what someone else did as a guideline to what you're going to do. Develop your own yardstick to measure your success. So if you look here at this graph, this is the end point here, right? And so someone went all the way around here and they got to the end point. Someone went this way. Not everyone's journey will be the same. So even though something happens, right, that actually knocks you off your path, just readjust and get back on it. And don't worry that this didn't happen to anyone else. You're still going to make it. So I was introduced to Dr. Mary Lindsay. And so she worked on a similar project to Greg. So Greg was looking at how tumor cells was able to metastasize, right, by breaking through collagen that sections off your body. So that's how they metastasize from one area of the body to the other. He was doing a lot of research on that. So Dr. Lindsay was also looking at metastasis and inflammation. So I went and I talked to her, and she was also, her lab's main work was actually looking at cardiology. She was a cardiology lab. And so I talked to her and we got along really well, and she explained her project to me, and I was like, oh, this sounds great. And she goes, but I work with mice. And at that point, I had to really think. I don't think I've ever even seen a mouse before, much less having to work on one, right? My undergrad experience was mostly working with macromolecules. Didn't even really do a lot of cell work at all. So this was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I decided to go ahead and give it a shot. And I'm glad I did. Dr. Lindsay is very interested in helping women succeed. A lot of the females that have gone through her lab are now assistant professors. They run their own labs, and she still keeps in contact with all of us, and she's constantly helping people advance their career. She's an amazing woman in science as well. And so from 2010 to 2012, I joined the San Antonio National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute Proteomics Center, which is a large group of students and world-renowned scientists who are studying the heart, okay? And so our group specifically focused on matrix metalloproteinases, right, which are collagen enzymes. So enzymes which help heal the heart after a myocardial infarction or a heart attack. And so for my thesis work, I spent a lot of time investigating the effects of these two MMPs, number 12 and number 9, the effects of inhibiting. If I inhibit MMP12 and MMP9 after a heart attack, is the survival rate better, right, long-term or short-term? And I'm not going to get too much into the science. This will take quite a bit of time. But what we ended up publishing is that MMP inhibition has both detrimental and beneficial effects. But the beneficial effects greatly outweigh the detrimental effects. So if you inhibit these MMPs, after someone has a heart attack, your long-term survival is much greater. And so I was able to actually publish a couple of papers doing this project. Right? So for my thesis work, I also got to present at many professional conferences. I went to Lake Tahoe, DC, Boston, San Diego. That was very fun. I also got to mentor high school, undergrad, and even med students who all rotated through our labs. I was a teaching assistant at the medical school. And I also got to establish connections with scientists who are leaders in their field, and I still keep in contact with these scientists today. So at the end of my second year in graduate school, Dr. Lindsay came to me and she said, "I'm leaving." Right? I've heard that song before. And so at that point, I had to decide what I want to do. Do I want to stay at UTSCA and start over? So I would have essentially lost about 2 to 2.5 years of lab work. Do I want to leave and go work in a lab? Do I want to move to Mississippi with Dr. Lindsay and start over again in their graduate school? And so I sat and I thought carefully, and I weighed the pros and cons of each option. And I decided that what I wanted to do at that time was work in a lab, right? I enjoyed the laboratory part of my graduate career. At that point, I think I was finished with the academic part. And so I thought it was okay for me at the time to work in a lab. So I had a lot of careers that I was considering postgraduate. And so here are some of the places that I applied to. I applied to be a research assistant at the U.S. Army Burn Unit. Because even though my graduate work focused on cardiology, it actually is all about wound healing, right? After a heart attack, you get a wound on your heart. Wound healing is a big aspect of it. So I could work for the Army Burn Unit. There was a job that was that matched my skill sets. I applied for jobs to be research assistants at Baylor College of Medicine, MD Anderson, UT Health, and St. Luke's, and I did interviews at all of them. I considered being a scientific writer for academic institutions, and I also saw a job where I could teach cardiovascular instrumentation or protocols at HCC because this was directly related to my thesis work. I ended up joining MD Anderson from 2013 to 2019, so last year. I joined the Department of Immunology, and I had several jobs there. Was a research assistant, senior research assistant, and finally I was research lab coordinator. So from 2013 to 2014, I joined the course lab. So my supervisor was Emily Kors. She's currently the executive director for cancer immunology at Boehringer Ingelheim. And so what we did in that lab is we had a new mouse model of chronic inflammation. And so what we wanted to do was identify pathways that are involved in the progression from chronic liver disease, such as hepatitis, right, to liver cancer. And even though I did not work on cancer, specifically liver cancer, in my undergraduate career, there was a path for me because after a heart attack, there is wound healing, so inflammation, and so I was able to progress to work on inflammation in another disease. And so I had a great time working in that lab, but as the story goes, Emily came to me about 8 months after I started with her and said, I am leaving the institution, okay? So that is, so that was a familiar story to me, so I weighed my options, and I thought about what I wanted to do. And if we go back to one of my previous tips, I had actually made connections while I was at MD Anderson. So literally, Emily announced that she was leaving, and about an hour after that, one of the other PIs, principal investigators in the Department of Immunology, came up to me and said, can we go to lunch? You know why, right? So I was immediately offered a job an hour after Emily made her announcement. So I was actually offered several jobs, and I decided to work for the MD Anderson Immunotherapy Platform, where I spent 5 years. And so the platform was established by Dr. James Allison back in 2013, so right before I got there. Dr. Allison got the got the Nobel Prize in 2018 in physiology or medicine for his work on using immunotherapy to cure cancer. And so what the immunotherapy platform is all about is they target molecules on immune cells that sustain the immune response to cancer. And so they do that by inhibiting certain molecules such as CTLA4, which was discovered by Dr. Allison, to get a robust anti-tumor response, therefore increasing the survival rate. The platform works on clinical trials in melanoma, breast cancer, lung cancer, colon, pancreatic, and a variety of other cancers. These are just the main ones. So what I specifically did in this lab is I looked at differential gene expression between disease time points and among different diseases. So once we target the molecules on your immune cells, I look and see, is there a change in expression of certain genes before treatment, 1 month after treatment, 2 months after treatment, etc. And the genes that are differentially expressed also become targets for future studies. I also looked at the differential gene expression between different diseases. So which genes are differentially expressed between colon cancer and breast cancer, for example, and these become targets for therapy. I gave a talk at UHD back in 2014, and it's quite similar to this, where it was for the Scholars Academy, and they also asked me to talk about my journey. And back in 2014, I spoke about what I wanted to do in the future, and that time, what I wanted to do was to manage the immunotherapy platform or any lab that's directly involved in clinical trials aimed at treating diseases. And so I went back to my tip number 3, and I planned on how I wanted to accomplish this goal. And so I worked towards it, and sometime in 2017, I was asked if I could manage the immunotherapy platform, and I accepted. But I did plan ahead for this position. Okay, so from 2017 to 2019, I was the research lab coordinator for the platform. Okay, so from 2019 to present, I moved over to the MD Anderson Cancer Center, UT Health Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. It's a very long name for the school. So I have a great passion for research. I absolutely love doing research. I love solving the puzzle. There's just a lot of different aspects about it that I love. But sometime around 2018, I decided that I wanted to make a change. I did some reflecting, and I thought back about how I got to where I was. And I know that I had a lot of help along the way. I had help from Ms. Nakamura and Dr. Estrella. I had help from Dr. Benavides, who introduced me to research. I had help from Dr. Lindsay, who continues to be support in my life. I can contact her for anything, and she helps push me forward. And I felt that I wanted to pay it forward. I wanted to do this for someone else. I wanted to work in a setting where I can help students recognize their potential, just as someone recognized my potential years ago. And so what I did was I applied for a job in science administration at the UT Grad School. I'm currently a program manager for the NIH predoctoral and postdoctoral training in clinical and translational sciences. So I run this entire program. And so what translational sciences mean, it's a bench-to-bedside approach where the work that you do in a lab is immediately applied to patients, right? So they want to take your work from what you do on the bench immediately to patients. And I think this is a fantastic program. When you do a lot of basic research like I did when I was in graduate school, you don't get to see the outcome of your research for years, maybe decades, right? I found out in grad school that you know, there are changes if you inhibit MMP9, but I'm not going to see that applied to a patient maybe for another 10, 15 years. So a lot of times science is slow. So this is a great opportunity. The TL1 program that I run right now is a great opportunity to see your research in work. In action, I'm sorry. The other thing is with the TL1 that I run right now is I'm actually part of a much larger group in Houston and in Texas in general, where we actually work with different institutions in Texas to determine health priorities, foster community involvement, help communities understand and trust and participate in research, and implement best practices that improve health. So there's a huge community aspect of it. We get together about every 3 months to talk about what's going on in the community and in our universities. So some of the things that we've done is we've helped establish the medical school down at the Rio Grande Valley. There's another medical school that will be opening in Texas within the next year or so. We're going to be actively involved in getting that running. And when we meet, we discuss different aspects of scientific research that's happening in our institution. So we had a meeting last Friday where a lot of the talk was what COVID research is being done at our institutions, right, and how our institutions are handling COVID patients, because we're not just a group of scientists, we also have doctors there as well. And one of my goals, so I don't just want to be a science administrator. That's not my end goal. One of my main goals is to actually develop a pipeline to get more UHD students to UT Houston. And to that end, I've been working or trying to work with UHD faculty like Dr. Parker, Dr. Usman, Dr. Johnson, as a way to sort of get this off the ground. So that we can get more of you to graduate school. Okay. So again, this came back to tip number 3, where I said you want to plan ahead. So I have put plans in motion to get this going. I have made contacts. I've connected the dean at UT to the dean of natural sciences here at UHD, Dr. Usman. I am currently serving on many different committees so that people in the university get to know me better. I am currently serving on the admissions committee for right now. I'm going to help review applications so I know what successful applications for graduate school look like, so I can turn back around, develop some program to help UHD students. So I am planning ahead and I'm working on a timeline. Okay. So let's talk about you specifically. So I have finished undergrad for a while now. But you guys are about to, some of you are about to be at the position where you need to start making a decision about what you want to do with your future. So I looked at this 2014 report from the Federal Reserve Bank where they said 70 to 80% of STEM majors are employed. So that's fantastic, right? Most likely when you graduate, if you're looking for a job, you're going to find one. But only 32% of computer science or computer engineering majors actually work in their field, the field that they got their degree in. 18.6% for chemistry, 18.3% for mechanical engineering, and 5.8% for math, right? So that could be a combination of a lot of different things. Maybe there just aren't available jobs in that area, or a lot of times I feel that people don't understand some of the careers that are out there for them with a science degree where you can actually use your major. So after undergrad, some people will go to professional school, MD, PhD, DDS, PA, etc. And some people will go work in industry or academia. Some of you may not like these options. You might want to do something else, right? And when I say work in industry or academia, I mean work in a lab in industry or academia. Here are some alternative careers that you can do with your science degree and still maintain your scientific knowledge, right? Science administration is a big one. So right now, even though I'm not actively involved in doing bench work, I'm very much involved in science, right? Now more from a community aspect, but more or less, I'm still involved in science. I still have to read scientific grant applications. I actually have about 15 to read right now. I still actively get actively involved in any scientific seminars. Sometimes I help plan them, things like that. So you can do something like be a program coordinator or manager like I am. Clinical research coordinator is a big field or area right now where you actually run a clinical program from talking to patients, consenting them on the trial, getting data back from whatever experiments were run with the patient samples, presenting this, writing papers about it, writing protocols, etc. Another job is a program analyst. So if you have a computer science degree, we have in our graduate school, we have 4 internal program analysts who help build our databases. Some of them help with tech support and things like that. Industry is a pretty big field, and there's a lot of opportunities out there in industry. Technical service is one. So you help scientists troubleshoot products. So when I was at MD Anderson, we have a lot of machines. Sometimes the machine breaks down. Sometimes the data that's generated from the machine does not look great. And so there are people on the technical side that help you troubleshoot your problems. So just like when your cable breaks down, you can call a company and be like, hey, this machine broke down. Can you give me some advice? Field applications scientist is also an amazing career. You learn the products that your company is selling, and then you actually go to different labs and you help them out with the science. So for example, there's a single cell assay called 10x genomics. It's a very complicated assay that you can't learn it on your own. So the company that sells this product will send out a field application scientist to actually train you on how to use their products. Sales representative, that's also a cool one where you sell the products that your company manufactures. You have to know about the science for a lot of these jobs, because if you're selling things like antibodies, you're going to get questions from scientists asking about how your products work on a scientific level. So you can still retain your knowledge of science in this job. And manufacturing quality assurance, QAs, that's another really great job in industry where you do quality assurance for products that your company is manufacturing. And this is actually a very, I don't want to say stressful, but it's a very focused job. I'll give you an example. Sometime 2 years ago, we had some antibodies that we stained some cells with, and then when we ran it through a flow cytometer, it looked terrible. And so we contacted the company, and there was a QA problem where they had left the antibodies out in the sunlight, and so they decomposed essentially. And so it's an expensive mistake for the company, number one, but on our end, patient samples are very limited and precious, right? If we're looking at samples at a particular time point, all we have is the samples for that time point, because after that, the patient has progressed to another time point. And so quality assurance is a very important job to have to ensure that companies don't have huge mistakes like that. Another job that I thought of is scientific writing, right? If you like to write, this is a great career for you. You can still maintain your scientific knowledge. A lot of these degrees ask for you to also have taken some courses in technical writing, which most of you have done already. So you can be in medical technical writing, where you can write handbooks, product manuals, etc., or you can go into science journalism and write for newspapers or magazines about different areas of science. A lot of that is super popular. I know you guys go to blogs, and sometimes you go to newspapers like New York Times and Washington Post, and you read their science section, right? You might want to know what's latest in the world of COVID. And you'll say, oh, New York Times has an article about that, right? Those are science writers who put those articles together. Policy review is another alternative career to work in a lab. So you can do something where you review animal protocols. That's huge at biomedical institutions, right? If you are working with an animal, you must abide to the regulations. And so people write their animal protocols, and there are people who actually review them. There are people who actually help write animal protocols. That's a big job too. Drug protocols are the same. You can be a scientific reviewer, where your official job is to review grants and contracts for your institution. Some other careers that I also found that are interesting, number one is a patent attorney or patent examiner. That is a huge, huge field right now. And so it does not require additional schooling as far as I know, but you must take the patent bar. And you can do this job with a bachelor's degree. Most of the jobs that I'm telling you about, you can do with a bachelor's degree, though a master's degree is preferred by a lot of institutions. So what a patent attorney does is essentially they write patents. The reason why this is such a huge field right now is because, you know, technology and science is just exploding, and law firms are required, often required to write patents, but they don't understand the science, okay? If you go to a lawyer and you tell them, hey, I have, you know, some chemical that targets DNA using this, they're not going to understand, right? They don't have a scientific background. That's understandable. And so what they do a lot of times is they hire people with science backgrounds to write their patents. On the other side, you have patent examiners, and these are people who actually work for the government, who inspects patents to make sure that everything looks legit. And so again, if you have a lot of patents for scientific inventions, you're going to need someone who has a strong background in science to actually examine the patent. Other jobs that I found, athletic trainers that you can do with your science degree, especially biology, because you have an innate understanding of the human body. Exercise physiologists, same thing. Speech language pathologist, that's a career that people with science degrees actually go into right now. Teaching, of course, but there are limitless possibilities. There are tons of jobs out there that you can use with your science degree that gives you a leg up over someone that does not have a science degree. You have to look for them, right? They're not just going to fall into your lap. Sometimes you have to actually go out and actively seek these jobs, right? So just a reminder, my tips for success are engage with your faculty, make connections, plan ahead, right? Have a backup plan for your plan, and weigh your options carefully so that you make the best decisions. UHD, being part of the UHD community is a fantastic way to get your foot in the door to a lot of careers, right? And so if you apply these different tips and use it while you're at UHD, this might help you. So I'm going to give you one classic example about engaging and connecting and also planning ahead. The job that I am in right now, I absolutely love the job from the job description. I wanted it. And so I did my second interview, and my second interview for this job was with the dean of the university, dean and executive vice president or something like that. When the interview was near the end, he said to me, he said, "Do you know Messias Pedroza?" And I said, "Yeah, I know him. We're friends. He was a year ahead of me at UH Downtown, but we still keep in contact with each other. You know, we talk a couple times a year, I'm sorry." He says, "Well, talk to Messias and ask him what it's like to work for me," because he was my graduate student. And I said, I tried to play it cool, and I was like, "Okay, I will, thank you." And I don't think I made it to my car before I got on the phone and was like, "Messias, you need to call me right now. I applied for a job, I want it, and I think you can help me." And so this was a connection that I had made in the past. Messias was ahead of me. Dr. Pedroza, some of you have taken him in courses. He was a year ahead of me at UH Downtown, but we still connected at UH Downtown through alumni events, etc. And so UHD students and alumni love to help, right? UHD alumni love to help UHD students. And so I told Messias, I want this job. He says, "I will talk to Mike for you." And then Messias also got another UHD alumni who went to UT, Antonio Tito, who's very well known there too. He got him to actually also call and give me a reference. And I'm telling you this because I want you to know that we are here for you. I'm faculty, but I'm also alumni, and I'm trying my best to help you guys as much as I can. So please reach out to me, reach out to other alumni that you might know, reach out to your faculty, talk to them to help you establish your career, to help you get going. That is why we're here. Okay, and so that's all I had to say today. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I wish I had a little bit more time. I would have liked to get into the science a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you an overview of my particular path, which led me from a student to being in scientific administration, right? Your path may be different, but I hope that I gave you some good tips to help you along the way. So first of all, I'd like to thank the UHD Scholars Academy, and particularly Dr. Parker, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you guys today. I am very happy to do so. I'd like to thank the UHD faculty, but in particular, Drs. Benavides, Hessel, Estrella, and Ms. Nakamura. They have given me advice, invaluable advice that I have taken from 2005 to now, that I still use every day to help me be successful. I also want to thank you. Thank you for listening to me talk about myself for almost an hour. I'll stop and take questions now, but most of you, well, a lot of you are my students. You have my contact information, but Dr. Parker has it as well. If you want to go to graduate school, I can definitely help you with that. Medical school, I can also be of help with the UT Med School, not as much as with the graduate school, but I am here to help you. Any other questions you have, I'm here. You can just send me an email and we can have a session on Zoom anytime. So
excellent. 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 Let's see if we've got some time for some questions. Does anybody have a burning question before we thank Dr. Who is it?
Anika?
Yes.
Dr. Patterson, I found your presentation really invaluable, like the advice you gave and your path, what led you to the places. I think what I notice is the trend of networking. So I believe what you're saying is that networking is so invaluable of an asset that it's going to lead you to places that you don't even know. So for students who are kind of like now in their junior, senior year, what advice do you give them to really like connect with their faculty?
So that's a great question. Thank you, Anika. So to connect to the faculty, start by sending them an email, right? First of all, figure out who you want to speak to and why, right? Then send them an email and say, hi, I've noticed this about you. I was wondering if you have some time to speak to me about this question that I have. Faculty love to talk to students, right? And I'm telling you this, I am having Zoom sessions with students I haven't had in my class for years now. I'm still helping them. Faculty want you to succeed, right? They live vicariously through you. So your success is their success. So do not be afraid to just reach out to them, send them an email, go to their office hours, especially with virtual office hours, and talk to them. They will definitely help you.
I think one of the hardest things that I find is kind of reaching out to them via email, because I understand that networking is like a quid pro quo sort of thing, and usually it's not even quid pro quo. It's like professionals trying to help those because they were helped themselves, like you are doing right now. So it's just like, I don't know, it kind of like sometimes networking feels a little fake to me. So do you have any advice on how to make it feel less fake?
Just be genuine. Just go there and, be upfront about why you're there, right? If you are looking for a job and you think the professor might help you, be genuine about it. Just be like, listen, I want a job, right? I'm looking for a job. Can you help me, right? Do you have any contacts? This is what I'm interested in. Just be genuine.
And I would add on to that, I'm going to go to somebody. A real relationship is somebody that really knows you. You just haven't shaken hands, said hello, except you want to build those relationships. Mentored research is the way you build those relationships beyond having every single class with that professor. And it's not possible, right? So you have to be genuine, absolutely, but you have to invest your time into working with them so that they see your work ethic and they understand your goals and your aspirations. And then you make the ask. I think it's very hard to make the ask on a superficial networking. I mean, that's just me. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I agree with Dr. Parker, and I'll give you an example from my life that I didn't talk about. I mentioned to you guys going to different conferences. I went to a conference and I met Dr. Nicolle Blake. And I spoke to her. She knew Dr. Estrella, but she didn't really know me. And I spoke to her at this conference. I think this was the one I went to in Disney back in 2007. I kept in contact with her. She came to UHD a couple times. I spoke to her. And so when I was ready to apply for graduate school, I messaged her and said, hey, by the way, I'm applying for the graduate school that you are dean of, right? But we had that relationship. So, I got in on my own merits, right? But I know that she helped. And after graduate school, I still kept in contact with her. I talked to her about once or twice a year. So when I applied for this job at UT, she did not know the people who were hiring, but she knew another dean in the graduate school's office. And she told that dean, she said, listen, Nicole's applying for this job and she's fantastic. Okay. Yeah. And so that helps. So it's good to make connections and establish the relationship like Dr. Parker said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she's an excellent resource as well. She still comes to this year she'll be virtual, but to the graduate school internship fair. So, I would say that, if I may, it was an excellent talk. I would say that you can certainly see you grow in leadership positions, and your depth of knowledge in the biochemistry field absolutely propelled you to these other jobs. So, what you did as an undergrad, not only research, but quality academic work, really sustained you in where you are today.
Thank you.
Kudos to you.
Thanks.
Anyone else have a question? We're almost out of time, but we want to take advantage of the last 2 minutes. Anybody?
Yeah, is that MARC program still up and running? I mean, I think it was like 2009 or something you said, so it seems like it might not be.
It really is not. It is not, and they've not funded it for a while. But actually, her mentioning it, I'm going back. There are some other NIH grants that maybe she and the SA and the NS faculty could talk about getting together, a bridge, right, to the program. So a bridge to baccalaureate or things of that nature, bridge to the doctorate. So there's some things that we could do, and it's a great question. You know, it's a very large grant, but it funds very few people over a 4-year period. So it's excellent, but it, you know, over a 5-year period, it will get about 12 to a few more, but it's difficult to get them because they have to be geared toward PhD. And what we find at UHD, if I may add, what we find at UHD is that we're all in the bio, whoever's in bio or chem, they want to be doctors. Well, that's not PhD work. That's not graduate biomedical sciences. It's medicine. So it's a little difficult. Anyone, and not to take over your time. Anyone out? That was a great question. So anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, what did you find to, like, motivate yourself, like, intrinsically? Because I know it's hard to, like, be a woman in that field because there's not many. Like, it's just overpowered by men. I just wanted to feel like what made you wake up in the morning every morning and be like, yeah, I still want to be here?
Good question.
That's a great question. Sometimes it is tough, right? And I had to deal with someone who I know was not as qualified as me and definitely did not have the experience of me. Essentially being promoted to my level when I worked in one of my labs. It's pretty tough. But essentially what gets me going is, you know, the feeling that I get, you know, from being successful and knowing that I make my parents proud and my community proud, and also essentially knowing that what I'm doing is contributing to society. That's one of the biggest things that motivate me. I want to contribute to society. And so I work my best, whether society means, you know, UHD, the society as a whole, the community in general. That's really what motivates me, knowing that I'm helping others.
Excellent.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Great question. Great answer. And I think whether you're a woman or a man, the question's valid for both genders. You know, there are times when you see somebody moving ahead, you just don't know why. But what you have to do is stay with your vision, work ethic, and, you know, you do more to let them see you are capable of more and be a relationship builder. Well, I want to honor Professor Patterson. Great opportunity for people to hear your story, and it was a wonderful story that's still growing. That's amazing to me because I can see you in charge of even more. And, you know, many of us need to know that you will have 3 to 4 to 5 careers within your 30-year lifespan of work, right? So keep that in mind. But she's certainly set herself up, and we want to thank her. Let's give her a round of applause, everybody. Thank you, Nicolle, so much. All right. With that, we will end this Women in Science presentation. And you can just email me, parkeram@uhd.edu, and I'm certainly going to send you her contact information, an email. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
I'll wait for everybody to disperse, and we'll end it.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye. Thanks. So, Dr. Parker, while I have you on here.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm actually going to a meeting. I have a virtual meeting this evening with my supervisor. And so one of the things that I want to talk about is actually establishing a post-bac program.
Yes.
between UHD and UT. And so it came to mind sometime. I told you I'm helping a student, one of my past students, and so he wants to go to graduate school. His grades are not the best. He's not at a 3.0, which is okay because we look at a holistic application,
right?
But no research experience. So yeah, you know, it's okay to not have strong grades if you have really
research experience.
But he has neither, and so he's a great student. I think he would benefit from a program like this. I don't think I'll establish it in time for him to attend, but I'm just letting you know that's something that's in the works. I've already spoken to one of the deans at UT about it, Dr. King. I think you probably met her because I believe she came to GSIF last year.
Right.
That's something in the works, so I'll keep you in the loop about that.
That's great. I want you to, you know, think about, and certainly you don't have time today, but maybe after you have this conversation, we have a different conversation, you know, think about the issue that I would see on our end. And I try not to make any issues, but realistically, you know, NS has not been able to hire any assistant tenure track faculty for almost 3 years. I mean, Adriana Visbal was the last one, and that was 2 years ago. And the reason is the money. So as soon as that gets aligned, it will be a lot easier, because even when I could put 80 students and give them a stipend, because we have a grant right now to get into mentored research. The professors, well, we're remote first and foremost.
Yeah.
You can do some things, but you can't do everything. And then the professors, they're worn out. You know, they will take up to maybe 3 in their labs. There's a few like Dr. Jang that will take more, but you know, it's who do we put them with is the question. And like you look at Macias, I mean, he technically as a lecturer, because he has the full load now. How does he do it? Well, he works with Phil. Phil's gone. Who is he working with? So they really don't want lecturers to do anything, but there's nobody else. They have the PhD. They have the experience. So just something for you in the back of your head. But I think we would absolutely be able to support that in some form or fashion.
So once the labs are back up and running at UT, if you have funding for students, I can probably name like 20 labs right now that would take a student.
Yes, and we want to do that. We need to get that reestablished. You know, we do it really piecemeal. Once in a while, we'll get the call and put them there, and we can support them. So I think that's a great idea. Now, the main thing is this also, they want outstanding students. So the one you're talking about, you know, where do they fit? And I really think if you did, I mean, we steal good things, a smart prep that Baylor College of Medicine, that's what you need, that raises them up, that gets them to enter in. Something like that.
So I'm hoping when things settle, we can establish that. My trainees, the trainees that are in my program, they work with like the best of the best faculty. That's how they ended up in my program. I know they would love to, my postdocs and my pre-docs, having a student intern with them, they would love it. Of course, the faculty would especially love it. Because, you know, they do get to talk about those in their grant applications.
Well, we can actually we can formalize that in some manner. And if we could find the grant, and I'll be looking, that helps you formalize it. Are you with me? Like if you can bring the money, or if we can bring the money and come to you and say, okay, we can do this, we absolutely want to do that.
Excellent.
Oh, I'm just so, I learned so much about you. I wrote down notes saying, go and look for this one, go and look for this one, because you have the expertise we need. It's just wonderful. So congrats to you, and thank you so much for giving back. I really appreciate that thought on your part.
Thank you.
And Samuel, do you have a question, or are you just eavesdropping? What are you doing?
No, actually, I have a question that I wanted to ask, but you know, I get out from Zoom and then I get in again. So probably this question already was asked, but I wasn't able to hear the answer. But the question was, what would you advise as a woman to people that like science, but they are concerned with the time and dedication that it requires to finish a degree or to pursue a PhD degree, medical degree? Because I see a lot of people, like especially women, they like science and they want to become doctors, but many of them, they think about all the time that it requires, and they actually want to form a family, and they are concerned about it because they getting old too.
That's a good question. It's completely achievable if you have to have support, right? You have to have support either from your partner or, a lot of times people rely on their parents if they live close to you. You have to have support, but you can do it. Right now, one of my pre-docs, so she had postdocs, I'm sorry, she had a baby Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's on maternity leave, but she emailed me Sunday to send me some pictures. So she's going to take some time off, right? But because we're working remotely, there are some things that she can do at home that she's going to keep doing without missing a step. But this happens, right? Women have babies in science all the time. My old boss, Emily Kors, she was pregnant during my the year that I worked for her. She came to lab every day. She did have to take extra precautions, but the point is, you just have to have support, right? And don't try to do it alone. And I would say to women, don't be afraid to ask for help. People are very understanding, right? If you have a baby and they ask, can you turn this in next week? If you say, well, I'll try, but I'm pretty busy, can I get some extra time? People are very accommodating, right? So it's completely doable. I mean, I personally don't have kids, but, a lot of my friends or colleagues or coworkers do. And, I don't see anything different between them and me, someone who does not have kids, or a man, right? We all work the same.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks a lot for your...
Okay, thank you. Nicolle, you take care.
All right.
Thank you, Samuel.
I'll see you Monday, Samuel.
All right.
Bye.